Now, I don't say this often.
I don't say this often.
Now, I don't say this often. He's going to be a wild card in the league. Welcome back to the Wildcards Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Colin Mellon. I'm joined here today with my two good friends and fellow co-hosts.
Jeff Sykes.
Brandon Hartke.
We're back for another week, as promised. One thing that wasn't promised in the last podcast, I did say that the Minnesota Timberwolves would have, won big, been up big on the Dallas Mavericks. That did not happen. They are currently down 3-1. By the time this podcast is posted, this series could be over, or it could be a 3-2 close series. You never know. But as of now, I was wrong. I think the Timberwolves have handled the Mavs, and I just want to get that out of the way and apologize for that because I don't think it's one of our topics. We could definitely talk about it when we get to our games of the week, but let's move on to the major news. Wanted to get out of the way. I wanted to get that out of the way. Josh, you want to help us out?
Yeah, so news broke today that all the charges on the number one golfer in the world, Scottie Scheffler, put on by the Louisville PD from his traffic stop, I think 2 weeks ago now, this coming up weekend, 2 weeks ago at Valhalla Golf Course in Louisville. All those charges have been dropped. Body cam footage came out today, and it didn't look good for the Louisville PD. Let's just say that much. If I was Scotty, I'd almost go after him for defamation. And then also, it looked like the officer assaulted him a little bit just by body cam footage. Yeah, not a good sight to see for the Louisville PD, but good to see for Scottie Scheffler. Maybe he can just get his A game back going, win some more tournaments.
Has anything good ever come out of Louisville?
Jack Harlow. Jack Harlow's pretty good.
Oh, well, I mean, we have, different views of what's good, but we can, beg to differ. It's all right. All right, Brennan, got anything on that, or do you want to move on?
No, I mean, the only thing that came out of Kentucky was fried chicken.
Right.
It actually didn't come out of Kentucky, though. So, obviously, you don't know your history.
Kentucky fried chicken, bro. Oh, so y'all are stealing. Y'all are stealing.
It's not even yours?
It was made in, I think it was Ohio or Indiana. It was a border state.
I thought it was like Louisiana.
No.
Because we all know Popeyes is better than KFC by a mile. Anyway, Brennan, do you want to tell us about Isaiah Buggs?
Yeah, man. So Isaiah Buggs, defensive lineman for the Chiefs. He used to play for the Lions and maybe another team. He's
probably not a good thing to mention though right now. Don't throw the Lions in there. They've already been.
Actually, yeah, we don't want him. But he did do good while he was on our team. But he's facing 2 misdemeanor warrants for cruelty to dogs in the 2nd degree, and this happened in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It is saying that officers went to a house. And there was 2 dogs left on the back porch, and they looked. It was a gray and white pit bull and a black Rottweiler, and there was no access to food or water. And they believed that Buggs had recently moved from the house and just left the dogs there. So both of the dogs were taken, and I believe that the pit bull was eventually euthanized. So they put him down. No word on the Rottweiler. But it's it's bad. Obviously, it's not as bad as what Michael Vick did.
It's pretty bad, though.
If you don't want your dogs, just give them to a neighbor, or just take them to the pound to adoption center. Can't just let them leave there to die.
No, I think that's I don't know. There's not really an excuse for that. There's nothing you can even say about it. It's disgusting.
Yeah, but really my question is, what's going on in the Chiefs locker room? What are we doing here?
Yeah, there's been a lot of Chiefs players recently. I
think it's a Swiftie curse, to be honest.
Could very well be.
Putting it out there.
There's a lot going on there. All right, moving on. We got wide receiver Nico Collins of the Texans signs a 3-year, $72.75 million extension, which is I would not expect it. I know he had a breakout year last year. He had 1,300 yards, 8 tutties. And then the year before he had I think 1,000 yards. But yeah, so he's a 3rd-year guy, or coming into his 3rd-year guy. And Tank Dell, they already have Tank Dell, they have Stephon Diggs, and now they're building up CJ Stroud's arsenal even more with Nico Collins. I think that's a great weapon. It's definitely an investment. $73 million is definitely more than I would have paid. It's 3 years again, so that's spread out over 3 years, just under $25 million a year. It guarantees
the market's going up too, so they're trying to get it done before the market goes up.
Right, and that's smart. Get ahead of the game. And even with that, though, 73 is a lot to put in a guy, although only 52 is guaranteed. Yeah, I mean, he was a third-round guy. So, I mean, he was set to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, or sorry, end of next season. And they locked him up before. And I mean, it makes sense. Let's say if they're planning on extending him, period, they might as well do it now so that, whoever gets a big extension next year, or I mean, JJ might just reset the market if the Vikings finally decide to get on their stuff. But until they get their heads in the game and then lock in and get the best player in the NFL, or second best player in the NFL on a good contract, then it's good to lock down these guys on smaller contracts, because you can, because then their agents are gonna start seeing these numbers and be like, oh, I need that. So yeah, I think it's a good signing, although it'll definitely look better. How about this? It'll look better in a couple months, maybe a couple of years. Obviously if he pans out.
I don't know. I'm looking at his stats right here. He's only played for 3 years. His only 1,000-yard season was last year. I think what is Stephon Diggs only like a year contract? So I mean, maybe they believe Nico Collins will just continue to get better. And
I mean, he has.
They got him at a steal.
He's only gotten better.
I mean, $75 million for 2,000 yards and 11 touchdowns in 3 years is kind of crazy to me.
I thought it was 2 years. I thought they drafted him.
I think 2021, 2022, 2023.
Oh, never mind. I stand corrected. Thank you, Brandon.
Coming out
anyway,
of Michigan.
You gotta think though, he's only been with Stroud for a year though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. I mean, how can you blame him for
Stroud might be a part of that conversation and been like, I want Nico. All right, we're gonna get you Nico.
Davis Mills was not doing him any favors.
Nico Collins is a dog.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. And I think, but to be honest, Brennan, you know what I sense? I sense a little bit of hate or a little bit of hating, and then hey, and then I heard, and you heard or you read somewhere, University of Michigan. And then, or you remembered, or whatever it was. Then you're like, I got to gas that guy up. Is that what happened?
No, he definitely.
He's smiling on the Zoom call right now. I think he's guilty. Anyway, let's move on. Josh, you want to talk about the Bengals?
Yeah, the Bengals OTAs have started. I mean, this is you don't have to come to these OTAs. Some of them are optional. But no top 2 wide receivers for Mr. Joe Burrow up in Cincinnati. T. Higgins, not there. Jamar Chase, his boy, not there. Both trying to hold out for a contract. I don't know who you pay. I mean, obviously you pay Chase, but Higgins, he's gonna want number 1 option money. He's just not a number 1 option over in Cincinnati. So where is he gonna find that home? Where is somebody gonna pay him to be the number 1 option? I don't know.
Nowhere.
The Carolina Panthers.
The Patriots. At best.
Yeah.
I mean,
some trash can team.
You are right. You got to think somewhere that doesn't have a number 1 already. I mean,
right.
Those 2 are good. I mean, where's another one?
Chargers really don't have a number 1 guy.
Chargers don't have a number 1. I mean, they got rid of all their number 1s.
I don't see Harbaugh signing on to a T. Higgins number 1 over
or
number 1
don't
receiver.
Have a number 1 guy, unless you think Courtland Sutton's that guy.
Well, anyway, speaking about Chase and all these guys holding out for contracts. You got JJ holding out for contracts. I wonder if once this first domino falls, whoever it is, if it's Jamar Chase, if it's T. Higgins, if it's JJ, once one of these guys falls, you have to imagine that within the next days, the few days, the rest will go with them. I think it's just going to take one. It might have to be either Chase or just Jefferson, but as soon as one goes, I can't imagine the other stays for much longer. The Bengals.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry, Josh. You can go.
No, I was just gonna say, since you're an insider up there in Minnesota,
right.
your boots on the ground in Minnesota. Is there any talks of a deal?
Well, from what I've heard, okay, so the Vikings just other news. This is not on our agenda, but the Vikings just signed Dalton Reisner to a extension today, former Broncos offensive lineman. So they're signing their guys. That obviously they're not sitting behind and waiting for him to go. They want to sign him. I know at the end of the day, it just comes down to money. And from what I've heard, they're trying to make it the biggest priority. But then again, if it's too much, I don't know what they're going to do. I really have I can't guarantee, from what my source has been saying really in depth there, I can't guarantee. I wouldn't put money on them spending anything they can do to keep him. So
how much is too much? If you're the organization, how much is too much?
I think anything here's the problem. I think however much they do, how it impacts their cap and what they can do all depends on how they structure it. I think that might also be one of the variables playing into the time it's taking. I think obviously that's their biggest priority right now, locking him in. Because if they don't have him, I mean, what are we really doing here? Yeah, I mean, what are we doing here? We have JJ McCarthy, but like for what? I mean, that's just not. It doesn't look good on the organization. So what I'm trying to say is that Justin Jefferson and his camp might be trying to get a contract that not only has a bunch of money guaranteed and also just is big in general, but also has it structured to where he gets more money sooner. While the Vikings might be trying to push it off a little bit while they can maintain all these offensive weapons like TJ Hawkinson and such, Christian Darrisaw, left tackle, all these guys. So at a certain point, I mean, someone's got to compromise somewhere. And I think that we might see that in the next month, as sources told me.
Appreciate that. Boots on the ground in Minnesota.
Reporting live.
All right, so moving on. Brandon, what do you want to talk about here? Something with the Mets?
Yeah, man. So the Mets, obviously, they always pay out people big money, and they always suck. That's just the way the cookie crumbles for the New York Mets. But their star reliever Edwin Diaz, who had a great year 2 years ago, and then in the World Baseball Classic, got injured, missed all of last season. He is now back on IL this season with the shoulder impingement movements. And then another loss for the Mets, their first baseman, Pete Alonso, about the only star on the team besides Francisco Lindor. He exited the game against the Dodgers after taking a 93-mile-an-hour fastball right to his hand. So very unfortunate for the Mets there, losing two big stars. And at some point, I want to say, don't quote me on this, but whenever the trade deadline starts coming to fruition in the MLB, I think that the Mets will move on from most of their guys.
You heard it here first, folks. We're going to quote him on it.
It's time to end the massive spending spree and accept failure.
I mean, I would think so. I mean, then again, I'm not a baseball owner trying to win games, like spending as much money as I can, but I think they need to move on from those two people.
So is that your decision, or is that like is that your opinion, or is that like?
That's my opinion. If the Mets want to get better, I think they need to trade these guys away for like key minor league players that like are high up on someone's boards.
Right. Okay. Hey, I rock with it. You want to talk about the other injury while we were talking about Alonso?
Yeah, man. So after the Braves, they lost Spencer Strider already this year. And now they're losing another big star, Ronald Acuna Jr., who suffered a complete tear of his left ACL in the first inning against the Pirates on Sunday. This is a big loss for the Braves, who are
reigning NL MVP, right?
Yeah, he just came off an MVP season. The Braves are in playoff contention. I mean, obviously, there's still a lot of baseball to play, but it's just sad for Ronald Acuna's just young career. I mean, he's 26. This is his second ACL injury. And when he is healthy, he's an MVP caliber player. But it's just sad to see that injuries are not doing him good.
Hey, if I'm the Braves, I'm putting him out there one ACL. Screw it. He's good enough.
Oh, better than everyone else. Probably still.
Just have somebody run for him.
Yeah, like a kickball. We have like a runner and the kicker.
Yeah, we all know you were the runner because you didn't have any power.
Oh, you already know. I was only the runner because I was like Ellie De La Cruz. So stop talking about my name.
You're a skinny white kid that just run fast.
I was pushing 50 miles per hour. Right, the cameras weren't on. So
no, it was like 25, and then you put your arms behind your back like Naruto. And
right,
you ran like that. I know you did.
I promise you, I was not one of those kids. That's a crazy allegation to throw around. All right, Josh, you want to talk about the MLB adding some cool stats?
Yeah, keeping with the MLB topics here. Today, actually, the MLB added the Negro League stats and records to the record book of the MLB. One of the biggest ones that they added to the record books was Josh Gibson. Now that they've added into the record books, he's the leader in some categories in the MLB history. Talking about career batting average at .372, which, I mean, Brandon knows better than I how hard it is to hit a baseball. But I would say if you hit it over a third of the time when you swing, I think you're a pretty good baseball player. He surpassed Ty Cobb's with a .367. So I mean, he's significantly better at that. Obviously. What else?
Can I jump in here really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've heard a lot of like just babbling. That's probably the best word to describe it on Twitter and Instagram. All these comments, all these MLB baseball accounts, and I've seen some stuff about like, oh, they all talk about how the pitchers nowadays are soft. They throw like once every 7 games, most of them, if that. And back then they throw every game. But then there's people that comment to that. These pitchers, they're only throwing like 20 miles per hour. Like the snail could walk across to home plate faster than the ball got to the mound. Ball got to the plate from the mound. And one thing I want to say is, just like with any sport, just like this dynamic of the pitcher being like less quality, the same thing was to go with the batter.
The game evolves.
You don't want people to discredit his stats just because he was facing like, bad pitching, some would say. I mean, they did have great pitchers in the Negro League, but I get what you're saying. Like, people can't just look at this and be like, wow, he hit 372 like in the Negro Leagues, and there was no good pitchers back then. Like,
right, exactly. Like it's like kind of like the whole thing, like debating NBA greats from like a long time ago. Wilt played against plumbers and electricians, but I mean, he was among the plumbers and electricians, and he stood out, and that's what made him great. So it's just kind of that same type of thing. I just wanted to add that in there.
Yeah, and then he also holds the records now for slugging percentage at .718 and OPS at 1.177, moving ahead of Babe Ruth in both of those. Babe Ruth actually had a slugging percentage of .690 and a OPS of 1.164, which Brandon also would know better than me in explaining those percentages. So, Brandon, do you want to like jump in here and talk about what each of those numbers mean?
I mean, I can. So, like, OPS it's on base plus slugging, and slugging percentage is I believe that's extra base hits, so doubles, triples, and home runs. Those count towards your slugging percentage. So, I mean, obviously, I think this is saying that what was it?
1.177.
I mean, every at bat he was either getting on base and or hitting an extra base hit, and it's not even, you can't even say it's like 1-to-1. It's like 2-to-1 almost. So
it's kind of like in basketball when you have a plus minus. That's kind of like what this is to help some people figure it out.
Mm-hmm. He was guaranteed to get on base when he was up to bat. Really, I mean, this guy just clearly hit nukes back in the day.
That's what I'm hearing. Like the slugging percentage, like I'm hitting extra bases almost every time. Like, yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Josh Gibbs is the GOAT, or Gibson is the GOAT. Yeah.
Cool to see these stats being added. It's about time. I mean, I don't see why it didn't happen before. All right, moving on. We got Ty Lue. What were you gonna say, Brandon?
I was gonna say, it says slugging percentage. It's calculated, but by dividing the total number of bases a batter reaches, singles, doubles, triples, and home runs, by the number of at bats. So, if you have a single, you multiply it by 1, double by 2, triple by 3, home run by 4.
Gotcha.
So
Grand slam by.
It's just a home run.
Same thing. Gotcha. All right, moving on. We got Ty Lue. Moving away from the MLB, we got Ty Lue of the Clippers. Has signed a new contract extension through the 2028-2029 season. Will make him one of the NBA's highest paid coaches, and it's valued at approximately $14 million per year, according to reports. So Clippers owner Ballmer, what's his first name? Steve Ballmer, and whoever their GM is, I guess super excited to sign Lue on this deal. I don't know why, because my personal opinion is that Ty Lue is not worth $14 million a year. But, with the new wave of coaching extensions and moves we've seen, coaching carousel, as Josh used a couple podcasts ago, we've seen some, pay increases. We've seen Josh's former coach, Monty Williams, go to Brandon's team. And we've seen that. That was a big deal. He's still the highest paid coach, if I'm not wrong, I think, right?
Brandon would know better. It's coming out of his pockets.
Right. You are at the city of Detroit paying for that. I think he's still the highest paid coach. Anyway.
He makes around $13.1 million a year, and Ty Lue makes 14. So I believe Ty Lue is now the highest.
Maybe it was that Monty Williams is like for longer, so the total contract is larger. Either which way, still a massive contract. He's going to enjoy being in that new stadium, that $1 billion stadium that they just put in. I think I saw earlier that Ty Lue's part of Clutch Sports. I think that's Rich Paul. Always in his bag. I mean, Rich Paul. I mean, okay, if your name's Rich Paul, you have to be in some sort of like management or like agent business. And I mean, he's really just, I mean, Clutch Sports is insane. They're so big. They have like everyone. I'm trying to think of a close second. Is it Rock Nation? Do they do sports? Is that Jay-Z? Anyway, Clutch Sports is really, really great at what they do. Getting a lot of bread for their agents. So Clippers have a new coach through 2029 unless, he starts selling the bag. And this is my prediction. I expect, when they sign something like this, like Kawhi, PG, they're not going to, James Harden, no one's going to be there by 2029. They're all going to be retired, or most of them. Russ probably going to be retired. James Harden might be. He's probably going to be eating burgers in Cancun. And I mean, Kawhi is getting up there. These guys are all guys that are probably, 100% they're going to be washed, but they could be retired too by 2029, as great as they were or once were. And my opinion is that they're going to use him as a scapegoat. I mean, it's just what we see time and time again. The coaches get used as a scapegoat. We saw it with Frank Vogel, who won the championship with the Lakers in 2020, although it was a bubble ring. We see it with Mike Budenholzer with the Bucks. We saw it with, I don't think Ime Udoka is a good example because there was some other extracurricular activity there. And so minus him, coaches get fired for what their players do on the court all the time. Whether it's their fault, I'm not to say, but they do get blamed. And I think Ty Lue, this is my prediction, I think Ty Lue in a couple of years, once all of his insane superstar players, which they have a lot of, go down and they're not what they once were, my prediction is that he'll be scapegoated and his contract will be bought out. But that's all good for him because he's going to get all that money. I think a lot of that's guaranteed. So shout out Ty Lue in his bag, agent in his bag. Clippers, you're in your bag for the stadium, but that's about it. That's all I got to say about that.
But my thing is, this is like a rant. Like, we could have a whole podcast on this rant. The NBA just needs to find some new blood in coaching because, like, it's ridiculous. They just get passed around from team to team, the same, 10 coaches. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you don't succeed at one, I get, maybe you get a second chance. But, dude, third, fourth, fifth chances, what are we doing here? You're just keeping them around because some of the players like them. Like LeBron, he can change his coach every year. He does. He literally does.
I didn't even mention the biggest example, Darvin Ham. I forgot about him. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. That, and then we have a whole podcast, but the referees, I think they should be able to shift around like college. So some college referees come up to do the NBA because the reason it's so bad with the referees and the calls and everything, that it's so inconsistent is because they have relationships with the players and they let the players talk to them and impede their judgment. I'm sure they're great referees, but they have relationships and they talk to these players like they're buddies, and they're too big for their britches. And so I think
that's got to be a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah, 100%. How many referees? I'm sure referees go up to players all the time, ask for autographs for their kids and stuff. You're not gonna have any bias towards that.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. Even high school referees, my dad, when he was refereeing, he couldn't call my high school's games because that's a conflict of interest.
Right.
He knows the players.
Yeah.
So in the NBA, as a referee, they know the players by name. They know the players pretty good. They're probably good friends with some of them.
Yeah.
That's a conflict of interest. So all right, we can go. We can move on. I just had to get that off my chest.
No, I 100% agree. Moving on. Brandon, you want to talk about unfortunate news in the golf world?
Yeah, so Grayson Murray, he's a two-time PGA Tour winner. Last week during the Charles Schwab Challenger, day 2 on the 16th hole, after he finishes the 16th hole, he withdrew from the tournament. Most people believed it was sickness. No one was really coming out with what it was, but it turned, we still don't know what it was, but Grayson Murray has committed suicide, and it's very shocking and sad to see and hear about because most people we still don't know what made him leave the golf course that day and what led him to kill himself. So very sad day for golf, and it just brings up more awareness on men's mental health, which most people don't talk about. But just prayers out to his family, to his caddy, and to the golf world.
Amen.
For sure.
God bless.
Amen. Sad news. I guess, Brandon, we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, so little NASCAR for y'all fans out there. We don't really talk about it much, but Stewart-Haas Racing is officially leaving NASCAR. Stewart-Haas, they have 4 cars in the Cup Series and 2 in the Xfinity Series. They have the number 4, 10, 14, and 41. And so that's drivers Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, Chase Briscoe, and Ryan Preece. I watch NASCAR. I think Chase Briscoe's the best one out of all of them. Josh Berry's been doing pretty good this year. But they've Haas, before it was Stewart-Haas, they were a team in 2002. And then Tony Stewart signed on with the team in 2009. So they've been going at it for a while now. But it's believed that the owners, Tony Stewart, he still does like racing, not NASCAR, but he does like dirt track racing. And then Haas, he does F1. So they just have other priorities. So they are no longer going to be providing a team in NASCAR.
Gotcha.
So
F1's probably more money.
F1 definitely is more money.
At least right now.
It costs more money. And I think, yeah.
All right. Great reporting. Moving on to our Feels Good Story of the Week. We did talk about an unfortunate event involving the Charles Schwab Challenge. There is some good out of it, obviously. I think 2 things can be true. Like there can also be, you can acknowledge both the bad and the good. So some of the good was an unknown, I'd say, up and coming, maybe under the radar. It's probably the best way to describe it. Golfer Davis Riley won the Charles Schwab Challenge. The total tournament, I think, was $9 million, and the winner got a Corvette. Feels good part about it is that he won kind of, under the radar. He beat Scottie Scheffler last week in the PGA. And what's special about it, although this is not like a good thing, is that a week before his sister Caroline was found to have a tumor. She had a seizure and they checked her out and she had a tumor. Just found out just a few days prior. Still trying to, figure out what's going on with that. Obviously, it's private, personal, family stuff. But turns out she had that, and then he went and won it. So it's definitely like a great story. And we all obviously hope that Caroline has a great turnout, great ending with that tumor. Hopefully gets resolved and goes away. So that's our Feels Good Story of the Week with Davis Riley. Moving on, we can talk about our picks of the week last week and how we're doing overall and with our picking our games. As you guys know, if you've been following the podcast recently, or I guess just at all, since we've been doing this forever. Anyways, if you're new, we pick games every week. We pick 10. And we're doing a season right now, 10 weeks, 10 games a week. So 100 total games. And we pick games just from sports around the world, or I guess mostly just around the US. I don't know if we picked around the world yet, but nonetheless, our games of the week last week was week 4. And we went, drum roll please, Josh with 2-8, Brandon with 4-6, and myself with 4-6. We had a terrible week. Our games, I think the Mavs and Wolves series kind of screwed us up. Also, the Rangers and Panthers, both those games we picked kind of screwed us up. And then the Celtics and Pacers kind of screwed Josh over. So, Josh was adamant that the Pacers would have won in 7 games. He did have an explanation for that. What was that, Josh?
I mean, Halliburton got hurt game 3. I mean, in the last 2 games are like super close. If you have your superstar out there, I think that's a different story, especially at home. It goes 2-2, and then it's anybody's game at that point. I think it does go to 7, but it's tough.
They did blow a lot of leads. There was like a 20-point lead that they blew, just like the Wolves blew a 20-point lead at the game I attended, which was ridiculous. I don't even want to think about it. Luka hit the step back. All right, I'm done thinking about it. I can't do it. But anyway,
was that game?
That was that game.
Oh, that was probably cool to see. Was it on?
No, it was not cool to see at all. It was actually the opposite of that. Okay.
Actually, before we start recording, Coleman said that he had a LeBron moment. He walked into the stadium and he said, Luka's gonna hit this step back to win the game.
No, it's not how it went. I said that right as I saw Rudy switch, I sat down in my seat. Everyone else was standing. I sat down. I knew it was wraps. That's my LeBron moment. But I mean, I was right. I could tell it had been happening the whole game. I mean, Rudy. Okay, there's a lot of hate for Rudy right now. A ton of hate. and a lot of it is justified. But at the same time, Luka's doing that to every other center in the league. Every other DPOY candidate. He's doing that to Bam. I don't care if Bam can guard the perimeter. He's doing that to Wemby. I don't care if Wemby's 7 feet to 1,000 inches. I don't care. He's doing that to AD too. He's cooking everyone. In fact, I have a couple of videos that I found on Twitter of AD getting absolutely cooked by Luka in the same exact way. So I don't want to hear anything about like, obviously that should not have been that was not Rudy's fault. Okay, that was a coach's scheming fault.
No, it was Jade McDaniels' fault.
Right, exactly. Like they should not have been switched on that. That's Jaden or Kyle Anderson should have been in the game, or Jaden was in the game. Kyle Anderson has done the best job on Luka. For some reason, it just works. He slows him down.
Slow.
Right, they're both slow. Luka's fat. Kyle's not really that fat. I just wanted to put that out there that Luka's fat. And yeah, I just can't get over that play. Anyway, we can talk about games for this week. All right, actually, no, we got to talk about our running total. So we're 4 weeks in. This week that we're about to talk about is week 5. So we've completed 4 weeks, and our running total is Josh at 20 and 20, 50% overall, 20 out of 40, but 20 wins, 20 losses. And then Brandon has 23 wins, 17 losses for a percentage of 57.5. And then I have 22 wins and 18 losses out of 40 for a percent 55%. All right, who wants to talk about week 5?
I think Brandon's got it.
I can start us off here. So week 5, we have, I believe this is game 5, Oilers at Stars. Right now the series is 2-1 Dallas. We all have Dallas here. Dallas is a great team. Oilers really need to win or I guess I can't say tonight. Oilers really need to start stepping it up if they want to get Connor McDavid to his first NHL Stanley Cup Finals appearance. In our second game on Friday, we have the Tigers at the Red Sox. Josh and Coleman went with the Red Sox. I went with the Tigers. Tigers have been really hot lately. We got some hot bats. Josh or Coleman, you want to just a little insight on why y'all think Boston will win?
I hate the Tigers.
Yeah, the Tigers suck, first of all. They're actually getting stomped right now by the Pirates. It was 10-2, so I don't know what you're talking about with hot bats. It looks like Paul Skeens had different plans there. But yeah, Boston, the green monster is going to eat them up. You know, I mean, that's just how it is. History is history, and Boston has it, and Tigers don't, and Boston's going to win. So.
Okay, on Saturday we have Yankees at Giants. Josh went with the Yankees. Me and Cole went with the Giants here. Yankees #1 seed. Giants are hot though. Then second game on Saturday we have Reds at Cubs. Josh and Coleman went with the Cubs. I went with the Reds here. Cubs are 3-7 in their last 10 games. I think the Reds will finally decide to step it up. On Sunday we have the Nationals at the Guardians. We all have the Guardians here. Nothing much to say there. Just better team. Rays at Orioles is our second game. We all have the Orioles, also a better team than the Rays. On Monday, we have the Brewers at the Phillies. We all have the Phillies. Phillies, I believe, are the #1 team in baseball right now. The second game on Monday, we have the Orioles at the Blue Jays. We all have the Orioles. Guess winning back-to-back games isn't impossible. Our final games of the week.
Actually, I didn't realize till just now that they're gonna have to travel from Baltimore to Toronto.
All right.
That's a flight, dude. I'm not
every week with you. The flights,
yeah.
man. The pitching staff, the flights, and what else? What's the third?
I hadn't even talked about the pitching staff yet. I mean, right here we got the Twins.
Oh, here we go.
The Yankees have a great pitching staff because they pay a lot of money for it. Me and Brandon went Yankees. Coleman went to the Twins. Obviously, I don't know why he keeps putting faith in his city. They just keep letting
They're just
him down.
rolling. No, well, that's a different sport.
And then,
even though they're like 100 feet away from each other. Well, not this. They'll be in New York.
And then our final game of the week are the Royals at the Guardians. Me and Coleman went Guardians, and Brandon went Royals. I just think the Guardians have some hot bats right now. You know, they're putting some balls on the dirt, hitting them hard, hitting the ball with the hardwood there. Brandon, why'd you pick the Royals?
I think the Royals, it's a home game, or it's not a home game. Never mind. The Royals, they are a great team. It's a very close. They're only 3 games behind in the Central, and Bobby Witt Jr. and the rest of the Royals crew have been on a tear, but the Guardians have also been on a tear, so it'll be a great game. How to pick, can't pick with y'all the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
best division in baseball.
The flight from Kansas City to Cleveland is going to be insane.
What,
right.
40
It's going to be
minutes?
insanely rocky. I think
Right.
the wind's going to be up. Turbulence. I don't know, man. You might have Might have picked the wrong
Right.
team there. That's okay though.
With that said, that's going to be all for our podcast today. I want to thank everyone for listening through to the whole podcast this week. Hopefully for week 5, or I guess it'll be the week 6 podcast. We'll be on time. We'll be timely. We'll have a great podcast for you guys. So make sure to stick around for that. Stay posted, follow the podcast, like it on Spotify, give it a rating. Hopefully a good one. With that said, I'm Coleman Madlin, one of your hosts today.
I'm Josh Sykes.
And I'm Brandon Harkey.
Signing out. Peace, guys.
Peace.
Peace.